'cause we don't know the hour or the day. Time is such a gift, try and control your destiny. We don't know the hour or the day. Unity is strength, let's stand as one without delay. 'Cause no bad vibe me a John. Me no want no bad vibe me a John. I just peace the times all around, yeah. No bad vibe me a John. No bad vibe me a chant. Say me no want no bad vibe me a chant. I just peace good time all around, yeah. No bad vibe me a chant.
What's up, everybody? AVM Superhero here. How you guys doing today? Well, last month we celebrated Stroke Awareness Month, and we had different stroke survivors come onto our show to explain to us how their life was changed and the warning signs for a stroke and things of that nature. Um, this month, the month of June, is actually Aphasia Awareness Month, but I don't have an aphasia person coming on tonight. I have a young man that is near and dear to me. We've been talking for quite a while now, and I was quite intrigued by his actual platform. He was a faceless or is a faceless type of platform on Instagram, on YouTube, and also on TikTok. And talks about different stroke survivors, their incredible stories of recovery. So he is a medium that allows us to have a voice, and I'm very grateful that he does what he does, and I'm very grateful that he's on our show today. So without any further ado, let me introduce to you my friend. His name is Phat. Phat, how you doing today, sir?
Hey, Greg, doing good. Hey, you know what? As far as Aphasia Awareness Month, I did have aphasia.
Oh, so
Yeah,
you came right on time, sir.
yeah, that works out. I'm dealing with it in different ways, but I think I've learned that there's many forms of aphasia.
Yeah, I learned that too. And for the people that don't know what we're talking about right now, Fat, can you break down what aphasia is so they can have an understanding so we just not talking into the wind?
Yeah, I think in general, off of what I know is it's a communication problem, and sometimes people they mistaken it with intellect, but it is a way that your brain it transfers or the way you communicate there's a disconnect, so sometimes it's difficult, like most common is for people to find words and like sometimes they can't speak but some people can, but yeah, that's what I know in what the gist of it.
Yeah, yeah. And I was working with this person, Dr. Tom Broussard, and he has this group called Aphasia Nation. And his quest or his desire is to make sure that every hospital explains what aphasia is properly, because a lot of times if you go to a hospital and you won't see any information about aphasia itself, so a lot of people don't even know what that is.
Oh,
And I'm glad that you did bring that up. There's different forms of it. It could be your type of speech, the way that you analyze things, the way that you can convey your information back to other people. And a lot of people don't understand that it has nothing to do with your intellect. It was the motor skill that was damaged by a stroke or some type of brain issue that allows you not to speak the way that you used to speak before. I believe Bruce Willis has aphasia. Am I right with that?
oh yeah, I did hear about that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know, especially when it's in the public eye, that's when a lot of people see that. And I did hear about Bruce Willis.
And that's the sad thing about our condition. People don't
Hmm.
know about it unless a celebrity has it, and then it comes to the forefront. And that's
That's
why
so
I'm very
true.
happy that you are here today, because the way you do your work, you bring a lot of the stuff into the forefront. But before we go into all of that, I want to know who you
Yeah,
are. I want to know what happened to you and why you actually taken up the mantle of being in the stroke survivor community.
sure, no problem. Yeah. Was as far as me, I guess I don't know how should I start, but I yeah, I mean I've done different things. I do enjoy being a part of the community. I've always been like that. I think it stems from my upbringing with my family. They do they actually are very involved with the temple here in Arizona. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and so I enjoy doing that kind of stuff. I was working as an engineer, when I experienced the stroke. And so, I was really involved, with different organizations at work. And, I don't know if you want me to lead into the stroke, but yeah, I was pretty active. And one day I was at the gym actually, and this is how I started is I was stretching, which is, I was in shock because I was stretching and I felt something in my neck like burst. And so I wasn't sure what it was, but I like lost feeling on one side. And so I wasn't sure what was going on. And, I wasn't lifting any heavy weights or anything that day. And so, but I was stretching, and, at the end of it, I felt a pop and I lost feeling to one side. But after I gave it some time, it went back to normal. So then I just went about my day again. But yeah, should I go into the stroke from there?
Oh no, you said you heard a pop, so you had a hemorrhagic stroke or ischemic stroke. What kind of stroke did you have, and did you know what was actually happening to you at that particular time?
Yeah, I did have a hemorrhagic stroke, and I did not know what was happening to me at that time. At first, it did cross my mind. Oh, is it a stroke? Because I lost feeling on one side for about 5-10 minutes. But then after a little bit, it went back to normal, and so yeah, I just went about my day, and I actually forgot about it.
You forgot about it. What do you mean you forgot about it? You heard a
Yeah,
pop, you was in the gym, and your
yeah, I was
body.
in the gym. Yeah, I heard a pop, and then I just went about my day, and there was a lot of things that I was dealing with at the time, and so I just kept on moving forward, and I felt normal again.
All right, let's dive into that because you're saying a lot of things that we need our audience to understand. Um, you was doing a lot of things. A
Sure.
lot of things were going on prior. A lot of things going on with work, life, whatever. You
Yeah,
working out. You felt like you was in great shape. So you didn't think anything of it. You didn't know what a stroke was, but you heard a pop and your body started acting differently, and you ignored it. What happened to you um, to make you go to the hospital after this actual event happened to you? And how long did it take you to go to the hospital?
yeah. So it took me about a week to go to the hospital, but as far as my feelings, yeah, I didn't know anything about a stroke, but what I was feeling is I just felt like a slight headache, and it was slowly building. But yeah, I just went about the week again, and I started going back to work. And I actually asked one of my friends, like, "Hey, what would you know?"
Listen to my sound.
Oh, and so then yeah, so then when I explained to him, he's like, "Oh, could you be having a stroke, or could you have had a stroke?" But I didn't know anything about it. So then I felt pretty normal again. Oh, I felt normal again. Besides, I did have a little headache. So yeah, sorry, I'm kind of jumping around, but yeah, that's what
No,
happened.
you cool, you cool. But I do have a comment. I have some information that's coming in from Instagram, so I want to read the actual comment, and then we can get back to your story. So let me go and read what we have on Instagram, and then we could come back to what you was talking about when you actually went to the hospital. This is from Michael. Michael says that I was doing shrugs the night before I had my stroke. Medical team said it could have been related. So Michael's saying that he was actually working out, doing shrugs with his shoulders. I don't know if you guys know what shrugs
Oh,
are, but he was doing
yeah,
that. And all of a sudden, something happened to him, and he had his stroke. So his medical team said it was actually related. And I wonder how you're doing, Michael. Can you put in the comments say how you're doing and tell us
yeah.
what made you go to the hospital when you actually um, felt these pains or issues that you had? So, Fat, please continue on. And
Yeah.
we want to know more because the object of this is that we want to let people understand that a stroke can happen to anybody. It can happen to anybody at any age. Um, I'm not sure what age it happened to you. If you
Yeah, I
said
was 36 at that time.
you're a young man that this happened to you,
Yeah.
You had your career, and you said something that's pretty interesting. A lot of things was going on at the time with your life, so you didn't really pay attention because you thought you was physically fit. You thought that you was
Ye-
doing everything that you wanted to do, and then all of a sudden this happens to you. Now, what would you give
Yeah.
to people in your same type of situation at the age of 36, 26, whatever? Um,
hmm
what are the warning signs that you want to make sure that people understand? And what should they do if those warning signs have actually come about?
Yeah, I do think, just be aware. If something doesn't feel right, then you should get it looked at. I mean, I do think everyone, has stuff going on in their lives. But I do want to say if something doesn't feel right, especially something like that, then you should get it checked up. You might feel like you're healthy or too young to have a stroke, which is what I did think. But I've learned that it can happen at any age. Also, be aware of the warning signs, and B fast is an acronym, BEFAST, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. But yeah, just be aware of the warning signs of stroke.
Well,
Yeah.
we never assume anything. So
All
be
right.
fast.
It's
We talked about,
balance. Oh,
but
okay. Go ahead.
go ahead, break it down,
Yeah,
break it.
is B is the balance, E is eyes, F is face, A is arms, if your arms are weak, S is speech, if your speech is slurred or you're having difficulty talking, and if you have any of those symptoms, then T is time to call 911.
And that be fast is a great thing to understand. The one thing that I really want to emphasize in be fast is the T in that. It's time to call 911. A lot of times, in fact, contest to this, he said he went home and went about his day. A lot of times, this is the time that people really get messed up. Their deficits gets worse or even death because they don't understand that they're going through a stroke. Um, I don't know about you,
Big
but
time, yeah.
Fats basically said it already for him. He didn't really pay it any mind. Um, I know when I had mine, it was very slight. I had a very bad headache, and when that happened to me, I thought I could push through it. I thought I didn't need to go to the hospital, but glad that I actually was talking to someone on the phone and I called 911. And then when I called 911, I was sent to the medical room. So that's very important for you guys. If this happens, it's very sudden, it's very slight. It doesn't seem like it's a big deal, but it is. So make sure that you pay attention to this. Do you have anything to
Yeah.
add to that, Fat?
I relate with that too. I was trying to sleep it off. Actually, yeah, it happened when I was telling you about that pop in my neck when I was stretching. It happened on Sunday, and by the time all my symptoms happened, it wasn't until I think it was Friday, and I was trying to sleep it off. And so, yeah, definitely, don't wait. It's better to get checked and to figure out that it's nothing than to wait, and then your deficits could be worse.
Fat, we got some more comments coming in from Instagram, so I'm gonna read it. I believe it's from Michael again. He's basically saying that yes, he said, "Thank you." The next morning, I woke up and the room was spinning. So that's another thing too. You get nausea or you get very dizzy. Check that out as well. And he also says that it was very scary. It was the scariest part of his actual life. He didn't know what was going on, and it's the craziest thing about having a stroke. Um,
Yeah, big time.
add to this if you can, Fat. But
hmm
to me, a stroke is like you could be in a room with 100 people, but you're basically by yourself because all this stuff is happening internally and people might not even recognize it. So if you have people around you that doesn't understand what a
Yeah.
stroke is, you could be dying right in front of them and they could just be laughing it off, thinking you're joking, thinking you're playing a game, thinking you're drunk or whatever it is. So it is very
hmm
sudden, it's very subtle, and it's very scary because once you having a stroke, unless there is a medical team around you, pretty much nobody could do anything for you. So just knowing the warning signs is very important. Do you agree?
Yeah, I relate with you 100%. I think, we're feeling all these symptoms. Balance was a big one for me too. I think that was the main symptom is when I was at the peak of the stroke, my balance was off and yeah, I couldn't walk straight. I was like falling over. But yeah, I thought it was food poisoning for some reason. I don't know what my mind was thinking, and I was trying to sleep it off.
Now that's funny. You thought it was actually food poisoning,
Yeah,
and I get it. I get it. You know,
yeah.
that's the reason why I think you made up this particular platform that you have now, because there was a lot of information out there and there was a lot of confusion behind it. Can you talk about your platform that you made up, and was that the actual reason why you actually made it up?
Yeah, sure, no problem. As far as the platform, originally, I just did it for myself, just because I couldn't find a lot of good information out there. And so I made a private page and I just started collecting information on like positivity and different types of things. And stroke recovery. And so that's how it started. And then it just popped up into my head, Hope for Stroke Survivors. Actually, it was just Hope for Stroke Survivor, and I was just doing it for myself. Yeah, I just started collecting information, and I did have a friend that told me, why don't you make it public? And so I ended up making it public, and I noticed people started following.
Yeah, and that was the reason why I did it too. It was not necessarily that I wanted to get information out there. It was just more of a journal for me, because I didn't have anything, and I was hoping to find people that could communicate with me to tell me what's going on within my life. Um, but now it's morphed into something big. Now, what has it morphed into, and what are you trying to do with this?
Yeah, it has more. And what I want to try to do with it is I feel like there's so much information out there, and I just want it to be a platform to showcase. I feel like bring all the people in the stroke community together and also showcase what's possible. Because I think at my lowest point, I wasn't sure. I wasn't seeing what I needed to see. And so now it's changed a lot, I feel like. But there's a lot of people doing great things in the community. And so I feel like I wanted to bring everybody together. Yeah, it has evolved. I think it's been about 2 years now, and a lot of things have changed, but it has helped me with recovery as well. I think, just scheduling things and, kind of coming up with like a schedule with, everything with the posts. It's definitely more, but I think it helps me with testing my memory out and a lot of things with my recovery as well, and my aphasia, like I was saying.
Okay, so that's what I kind of figured that's what was happening with you, you know, because I know when I first talked to you, because we've been talking for a while. He's like, I'm not ready to go on yet. I'm like, well, why are you not ready to go on yet? And he's like, well, it's not there yet. I'm like, well, you're doing great things with this, because I think you didn't understand how much it was needed, and you came at the right time. You came right after the pandemic, and then you just started just giving out everybody's stories out there, so they could actually have a place to I want to say shine, but the way to communicate to the world, that people that really didn't have a voice. And that's what I was so proud of you of. And then all of a sudden you said, you know what, I'm gonna start doing interviews myself so I can put myself out there. And I was so proud of you on that. Can you talk about that transition, and also telling other people how they can actually come out of their particular, I guess, cubby hole, and this give their talk
Yeah.
to the world?
Yeah, I do think, I mean, I know for sure public speaking is a fear that it's like the number one fear that people have. And, I do, especially before the stroke, I did have a big fear of public speaking. And, a part of me not wanting to go, live with you before is a part of that. I was scared of it, but then also I think just like growing up, there's I don't know, just like how I've been brought up, it caused me to kind of be more quiet, reserved, and so, but I realized, especially after having a stroke, I think made me care a little bit less because you realize your life, you live only once, so I cared a little bit less, and I think just doing it, like I learned to just do it, and as you do it, you confront your fear, it gets better with time. And so everything was kind of a transition, and it just happened, I think, in the right time. And so things just popped up, and people like you too, Greg, just asking me in the beginning and planting that seed. I think in time I was like, I should do it, and to build up the confidence. I think a lot of times if we keep on doing things, it's good to confront your fears and do things.
Absolutely, and I thank you for saying that. That I kept on pushing you forward. That's what we need to do. We need to keep on pushing each other forward, and that's what this community is about. And I don't think a lot of these people out there that do have this talent to actually speak, to draw, to make cartoons, whatever, they're scared that it won't be a good enough. And people might not really accept it. I get that fear thing. But what I have come to realize, and I don't know if you have come to this realization yet, is that we are complete strangers and all of a sudden we become family. And this thing called a stroke has made us brothers and sisters and fathers, uncles, nieces, whatever. Somewhere or another, we're related and we communicate better
Mhm.
with each other because people don't understand what we're going through. So, can you talk about that part there? The communications that you have with people. Was it difficult for you to articulate what's going on with you and also people to understand you? And did you lose friends, family members because of they don't understand what's going on?
Yeah, big time. I think my communication, especially in the beginning, you know, it was affected a lot, and I did lose a lot of, friends, family. I think things change. It's hard to understand until you experience it. But yeah, a lot of things change, and it took time for me. I started having to focus on myself, and so it required me to kind of my focus was different, so it required me to focus on myself. And then I didn't make as much time for everybody else like I used to. But definitely, it's been about 4 years. It's been almost 4 years since my stroke, and I've been kind of pushing myself, to slowly get back into things again. But yeah, it's getting better and better. I noticed that.
What do you mean by pushing yourself? Like, do you have a fear of being around people, or do you, your deficits got you mentally thinking that you're less than of a man than you are? What do you mean by that pushing yourself?
Oh, okay. I'll clarify is, I think being around people, being around large groups, it kind of changed for me. Especially after having a stroke, it wasn't maybe my senses. It just I didn't prefer to be in large groups or loud environments like before. And so I think it was probably because of, well, it was because of everything I had experienced from having a stroke. And so yeah, I started having to, because before I used to do a lot of community events and stuff, and so then I slowly had to push myself to do it again because initially I didn't want to do it again after having a stroke.
What advice do you have for people that were in that or in that particular space, mind space that you was in? What advice do you have for them to get out of that?
Hmm. Yeah, I think yeah, that's a good question. I think it does take time, for everybody to kind of come to terms with what has happened, and it varies for everybody. And I do believe it's possible for everybody to recover and get better, but definitely just slowly get back into it, and just don't underestimate yourself, because I believe that anybody can do it.
Here's a question I have for you that I'm not sure if people are asking that now or thinking that, but I know I get the other side of it a lot. And when I look at you, the first thing that I say, oh, he didn't have a stroke. He looks great. Nothing's wrong with him. He could actually function and be part of this society with no handicaps, no disabilities, and everything be fine. What
Yeah.
actually happened to you after your stroke? What deficits did you have, and do you still have any deficits now?
Yeah, I totally get, why people would think that. And, sometimes originally I would get a little frustrated, but, as far as what you see now, the deficits I had in the beginning were different. I mean, I could barely talk. I couldn't even walk. I was, I used a walker to walk around. I had one of my biggest problems was double vision. My eye wasn't aligned, and so I had double vision. I still experience double vision. Yeah, I'll get into that. But my affected side was partially paralyzed. I had tremors. I had problems with my throat because of the breathing tube that they put in there. Um, yeah, I was really slow, and I had a problem, talking. I would get tired a lot. Fatigue is a big one. I think concentration, memory. I feel like a lot of things that most people deal with, most likely I was dealing with it too. As far as now, I still do have deficits. A lot of them are invisible, but at the same time, I do still have things that are physical. Like, for example, when I walk around, my balance is not there yet. I still have double vision. Well, that one you can't see, but it's getting better. I still do things every day, you know, and it's been about 4 years. So, but it has taught me a lot of discipline. What else? I don't know if I said, oh, my memory is bad. It's hard for me to recall things. Also, when I talk, yeah, I do get tired easily. I still deal with neuro fatigue. I think processing speeds, I'm not as fast. I forget things a lot. Yeah, but I guess that's it off the top of my head. I Sometimes it takes me a while, so if I like sit there and I write it down, I process it, then I could tell you more.
Do you have this? Because I get this a lot, and it bothers me to no end. People will ask me to do things for them. Like, you used to be able to do this. Why can't you do this for me now? I'm like, I it takes a lot out of me to do it. Find somebody
Yeah,
else. Like, why are you asking me? And I don't think they understand that I might look good, I might sound good, but you're still talking to a person that has brain damage, and they don't understand that. Do you have that actual problem? And if you do, how do you get around that?
big time. I feel like as a stroke survivor, everything is harder. And so it's like every single thing. And so, um, as far as that, yeah, I can see why you would get frustrated. I do too. In the end, I've realized that for myself, sometimes I just have to tell them no, I won't do it. I am more blunt now. Sometimes I'm just like, oh yeah, no, can you do it? I'm not going to do it.
But I guess I didn't really dive into it deeply. Like, I'm not even necessarily you're talking about friends. I'm talking about family members or people that you're very close to, and they expect the old you to do the things again. And you
Mm,
try to explain it to them, and they still don't understand it. and it gets frustrating with them. And they even want probably want to even argue with you or even don't even talk with you anymore. How do you deal with that, as well as how do you try to explain it to these people? Because I find it very difficult to explain something to someone that has a normal brain about brain injury. That just baffles me. So I always ask my guests this particular question: how do you actually deal with that, especially with people that you love and family members that are close to you? How do you deal with that, if you do?
Yeah, I do. I know exactly what you're saying. I do deal with that, and yeah, it does get frustrating, but I do. I guess I have more boundaries now, and a lot of times, people expect you to be like you were before, but I have to. Yeah, I just have to let them know that. I mean, I don't even explain myself sometimes. I just won't do it. I don't know. That's just off the top of my head. Yeah.
Yeah, you being so coy right now. It's killing me. It's killing me, fact. But
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. I guess I'll just tell you what I do. Um, it's bad. I have people that will look at me and I'll make certain posts. I'm like, hey, I look like this on the outside. I look great, but inside I might be dizzy. I might be nostalgic. I might have memory issues. I might not be able to articulate what I'm trying to say. I might feel nauseated, and all these things are happening. And you want me to be this person I was before. I'm like, I can't. And and people like I'm talking about family members, friends, everybody, they will get on me. And I'm like, why don't you understand this? And it makes me become a hermit. Like I want to not deal with anybody at all. I just want to close myself into a room and just deal with my stroke survivor friends that's on social media. So I heard what you said, that you just don't deal, you just keep on moving forward. You know, does it hurt your heart that they don't understand you and it makes you have to be a different person around them? Like, do you have any emotional ties to that actual feeling, or you just don't care anymore?
It's not that I don't care. Maybe I'm simplifying it too much. I do care. It does bother me, or it does bother me. That people don't understand. But then also, I think, yeah, I just don't let it bother me as much, and I think I've communicated it enough that they understand me now. But they still do look at me like before, and a lot of times their expectations are the same, and they expect me to be like how I was before. And yeah, sometimes it does bother me more than some days, more than others.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
No, no, I get it, because it's hard for me to articulate it too, and it's hard for me to actually explain it to other people. When I really think about it, I just wanted to hear if you had any insights for people, because I don't have the proper answer for that. I'm
Yeah,
six
that's a
four,
hard one.
and I get asked all the time, "Can you get this from the top shelf?" I'm like, I can, but when I do it, if I look up, I start getting dizzy, and I feel like I'm about to fall over. And people don't understand that.
Oh, yeah.
So I do it for them, and they're like, okay, thank you. And I'm like, I got to sit down for another 20, 30 minutes. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I have issues, and you asking me to do something, and I want to be a good person to you. I want you to be able to use my height. I don't want to have this as an excuse, but I need you to understand. I need you to be more careful around me and what you ask me. Because if you don't, who's going to take care of me? I got to take care of myself. And you actually ain't stroke survivor to take care of himself when you're supposed to be the person to be around me to take care of me. And I don't think people understand, because they look at us as being okay. The stroke is over. And let me ask you a question. Do you believe that after a stroke, a person can be 100% back to who they were before, or is it completely changed?
I think it's hard to say completely normal. I do think the stroke does affect you, and depending on how long your recovery was, I think it does change you. I am a different person now, but I think you can get close to it, but I don't think you can be completely 100% because I think mentally you have changed a lot too. Like my perspective on life has really changed. So I don't know. When you say 100%, I'm like completely back. I think you can come close, but I don't know about 100%.
The funny thing was, when I was in the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
there was this, I guess, a program that was on the TV all the time because I couldn't move. I was handcuffed to the bed and I just had this remote and I just could see like two or three channels. But they'll keep on showing information about stroke survivors and the percentage of how much your body's going to get back to normal. And say only like 5% could get back to like 80%.
Oh, really?
And everything else just completely underneath that number. So I was like, you know what? At that time, I couldn't walk, I couldn't swallow. Um, I
Oh,
was
yeah, I
asthmatic,
couldn't swallow too.
and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be in that 80%. That was just something that I just willed myself to actually be, and then all of a sudden,
Oh,
everything started to move towards that particular percentage. I don't know if I'm above that or not, but I made sure that I was
yeah.
not going to be. Um, and I'm not saying that other people are not making it strong enough. I just said I know I was not going to be in that particular percentage of lower than 80%. I'm going to try to be higher than 80%. Um, do you believe that your mind has a lot to do with your recovery, or you just think it's just physical, working PT, OT, and you're going to get there no matter what kind of mindset you have?
I do think the mind has a big part to do with it. And nowadays, there's a lot of science behind it too. And I think it is important to have the right mindset because I think everything starts in the mind first and foremost. Sometimes we don't even think about it, but yeah, I think the mind has a big part to do with it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm glad that you did bring it up. There is science behind it because people don't understand that your mentality helps you out with your recovery as well. Putting things into existence. And I'm not saying that you know people that don't walk again or can't speak because they have aphasia because their mind is not right. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying if you're capable to getting better and you say to yourself, "I'm not going to get better," I don't know how you're going to get around that. And what I mean by that is if you have the mentality that I'm not going to get better, I'm not going to get better, that means you're not going to work out, you're not going to do the OT, you're going to eat terrible, you're going to do all these type of things that's going to be detriment to your recovery. But if you have the mindset like, yes, I am strong, yes, I'm going to be able to do this, then you're going to be doing all the work to actually get there. And by you saying negative things to yourself, your body feels that. And if you tell yourself you're stupid, your body's going to start reacting like it's stupid. If you tell yourself you're intelligent, it's going to do things that's going to be intelligent. That's the way I think about things.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, cool. All right, Fat. We're at the point of the show that we transform it from asking questions like this and having our conversations to what's called my hot seat questions. So at this time of the show, I have about four hot seat questions that I ask my guests. And I will ask a question and give the floor to you. Give me a 30-second sound clip of what you think of that particular question. And then when you're done, say AVM superhero, I'm ready for my next question.
Okay.
After that, when it's all complete and said and done, I want you to close out the show. I want you to tell us anything about you, how we could find you, anything about Hope for Stroke Survivors, anything that you want to leave with the audience. So, are you ready for your hot seat
Sure.
questions?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm ready.
All right. So,
All right.
without any further ado, here is our hot seat questions. Our first hot seat question that we have on the board is okay. What do you think stroke survivors need? when they are discharged from the hospital?
Yeah, I think for stroke survivors, you go through different phases, but I do think stroke survivors need a place to find resources, because I think with the brain injury, in the beginning especially, I wasn't sure exactly what was going on, and even though people tell me things, I didn't fully process it, and so I think it's good to have resources, and it's a lot different now, but people like Greg, or different people in the community, I think it's good to get resources so you can find different information depending on what stage or phase you're at. AVM superhero, I'm done.
You're supposed to say next question, sir. Not
Oh, next question.
I'm playing with you. I'm playing with you. All right.
You're good.
Question number two. Question number two. All right. Do you recommend a therapist for a stroke survivor? And this is like almost a two-part question for the survivor and also their caregiver or their spouse or a loved one.
Oh, that's a good distinction right there. I do think therapists are good, whether it's physical, occupational, mental, emotional therapist. I think those are all great. I think that's important actually. But depending on where you're at, I think you have to come to terms with certain things before maybe it's more, if you're ready for certain things, or actually you could do it at any point because they should adjust to where you're at too. But yeah, I do think it's really important for a therapist. In the meantime, I think community is also really important as well. To find people that have been through it and also who can relate to you, because in the beginning it was hard for the people around me to fully understand what was going on, and so I think having community is awesome. AVM superhero, next question.
No, that is great, and I like how you segue to talking about community and also having people around you that understand what you're going through. I think a lot of people take that part for granted. They just come home and like, oh, I'm talking about spouses, parents, whoever. They take that part for granted, the understanding that they need somebody to talk to, as well as the survivor needs someone to talk to, because you guys are living in two different worlds, and it's been thrown
Yeah,
just like that. So I'm glad that you did bring that up. Thank you.
that's a good one. Yeah, no problem, man.
Okay, question number three. Here we go. Question number three. What do you want people to take away from your message?
For my messages, oh, I want people to take away that recovery is possible. It might not look exactly like you imagine, but it's possible for everyone. I truly believe it is. I mean, yeah, sometimes you need help too, and I think that's that can help you with your recovery process as well. Uh, yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, AVM superhero. Next question.
Okay, sir. Since you asked, here it is.
All
Question number
right.
four. Here is the fourth and final question. How did you? Oh, sorry. How did the threat of
Like,
death teach you how to live?
yeah, man. You know what? Before this, I was a grateful person. I did appreciate a lot of things, but I think when you almost die, it does something different to you, and definitely I'm more appreciative of everything around me, even like something simple, like that I normally would not enjoy before, like, I could shift it sometimes, like washing the dishes or something, I'm like, oh, I gotta wash these dishes, but I'm like, oh, okay, I get to wash them. But yeah, that's something kind of small there. But as far as death, I realize we have this one shot at life. So hey, how are we gonna live our lives? I think almost dying, that puts that top of mind to me. AVM superhero. Next question.
Well, Fat, that was the last question. I thank you so much for being on a hot seat and giving us all the great tidbits about those questions that I did ask you, and I really appreciate you coming on the show. But as
Good. Thank
promised,
you. Greg.
I'm gonna allow you to close out the show. I'm gonna allow you to speak to the audience and let them know who you are, where they can find you, or anything that you want to leave with our audience. And thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you, my brother, and everybody out there. God bless and good night. Fat is your show.
Yeah. Thank you, Greg. Yeah. Hey guys. Yeah. Greg, thanks for the opportunity, man. For me to share the story, and also I just want to let everyone know that you know uh, we're here. You can reach out to me anytime. My personal Instagram page is fat.cow. It's my real name, Phat Cao. And also, yeah, reach out to us anytime. But I have the Instagram page, which is Hope for Stroke Survivors. TikTok is Hope for Stroke Survivors as well. No, Hope for Strokes. Sorry. And then the YouTube channel is Hope for Stroke Survivors. So if you aren't already follow all the platforms, I do have a future vision for this thing, and I feel like this is just the beginning. But yeah, thanks for your time, guys, and don't give up.